Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Ohio Football Talk, the channel where we are not talking about Ohio football, at least for right now. We're going to talk about Clemson and Georgia, the defensive struggle we saw, primetime, 7:30 Saturday night. It was an interesting game, to say the least. I think a lot of people were bored for a lot of it. At least I was. I like to see good football, and I would have honestly liked to see Clemson score and force Georgia to make a field goal or do something, really, because neither team looked like they wanted to win that game. The only team that looked like they wanted to win was maybe Georgia's defense. And other than that, the offenses struggled. They looked like they didn't want to be on the field. Clemson's defense did okay, but I think the only reason they did all right was because Georgia's offense is so anemic. I mean, they barely took any shots down the field. Their running game was okay. It wasn't great. And I mean, this is a game where both offenses only mustered 3 points. Now, I will say I will give a lot of credit to Georgia. This was a big game, and their defense came up with 7 sacks. 7 sacks. Or 6 sacks and a couple tackles for loss. I don't remember exactly, but it was 6 or 7 sacks. And they came up with a pick six, which was the only touchdown of the whole game, which was huge. But I think there's a glaring problem that Clemson is going to need to solve, and it's that Ngata was their only receiver who was kind of doing everything for them. And Uyunglele, they didn't take any shots down the field. I think the longest play from scrimmage was only maybe 18, just over 20 yards for either team. And it felt like whenever that pick six happened in the second quarter, when we went into halftime, it was like this game might be done at 7 points. So at least that was the feeling I got. Now, we're going to go through some of the stats here. DJ Uyunglele, he was 19 of 37 for 178 and one interception. And that's not very good, to be honest, right? And in rushing totals, I mean, Clemson, they rushed for what? 2 yards if you count. They obviously count DJ Uyunglele. So if we take off DJ's sacks or negative yardage plays, then they mustered 24 yards. 24 yards rushing in an entire game. That's pretty bad. Now, again, we got Joseph Ngata, 6 receptions for 110, 18 average. He was the one player on Clemson that looked like he really wanted to win that game. Everybody else looked like they didn't want to stand up to the moment, to be honest. Justin Ross had 4 for 26. Galloway had 3 for 13. Basically, everybody else had almost nothing except for Justin Ross and Ngata. I mean, Ngata carried the whole team. Now we'll go over to Georgia. JT Daniels had a much better completion rating, 22 of 30 for 135 and 1 interception. Zamir White was the star of the show for them. 13 carries for 74 yards. He was averaging 5.7. To be honest, just keep handing it off to him, and you would have won the game if you would have never thrown the ball the whole time. Now we got Brock Bowers, who is the tight end. He's a freshman for Georgia. He played really solid. 6 receptions, 43 yards for 7.2 average. Now, I know 6 receptions isn't huge, but if you watched the game and you watched the catches he made, the plays he made, for a tight end, he made some very good plays. Some very, very good plays. So, Georgia, in total yards, they won 256 to 180. Passing yards, Clemson was ahead 178 to 135. But rushing yards, 121 rushing yards for Georgia to only 2 rushing yards for Clemson, you have to get more than that. You absolutely have to get more than that. Georgia averaging 4.2 yards per play, Clemson only 3.0. If you look at these stats, now, regardless of the rushing stat, you look at these stats. Georgia had 15 first downs, Clemson had 14. On third down, Georgia was 7 of 15, Clemson was 5 of 16. So they were relatively close. I mean, total plays 61 versus 60. Even penalties, Georgia had 10 penalties for almost 100 yards, whereas Clemson had 7 penalties for 59. And Georgia also had 2 turnovers. Clemson had 1 turnover. So if you think about it, Georgia has 2 turnovers. They have nearly double the penalty yardage. And both teams ran basically the same amount of plays. Time of possession was 31.5 versus 28.5. The one difference, that pick six. That's why all of these stats are very, very, very close. Besides the rushing totals, all of these stats are very close. And the one change was that pick six. If Uyunglele doesn't throw that pick six, and I gotta say, that was a great play by, I believe it was the safety, number 20, it was 28 or 29, I don't remember his name. That was a great play by him. He jumped the route, made a great play, almost like Butler's goal line interception against the Seahawks in the Super Bowl a couple of years back. But this game, both offenses struggled mightily. To be honest, if Ohio State played either of these teams, I would feel confident that they would be able to come out of it with a W. They probably wouldn't score 50 on them, but I think that Clemson, their offense struggled so much, even with Ohio State's defense, which I think is a bit less than. Some of our strongest assets are on that D-line, and Uyunglele was under pressure all night against Georgia. And against Georgia, I think Ohio State would struggle some more, but I think the one thing that Clemson lacked that Ohio State has is stretching the field. We have Olave and Garrett Wilson, players that can go to the house. I mean, and we have running backs as well, Mayan Williams, Travion Henderson, who I think was even a little underutilized in that first game. To be honest, I like him the most out of all the running backs. And I think easily we would be able to run roughshod on Clemson and be able to be in a dogfight against the Bulldogs, but come out with a W. Granted, this is week 1. Overreactions are all around. So thank you guys so much for watching. Leave a like if you liked the video. Leave a dislike if you disliked the video. And I'll catch you guys on the next Football Talk. Peace out. Ohio State has